just a couple bad weather fans representing New York, talking all things sports. Man, what could go wrong? We got Alex, who's a fan of the Knicks, and Mike of the Nets. The yin-yang of the tri-state, place your bets on the Yankees, Giants, Mets, or Jets. Yeah, you should listen if they're sparking your interest. If you made a vow to your team, don't break it. Bad weather fans is the relation.
That's right, this is Bad Weather Fans, episode number 258. Mike Biseglia, Alex Benesowitz, and we are presented by DraftKings. Knicks, a little bit of a slide. They're only 2.5 up now on the Indiana Pacers for the 4th seed, while the Brooklyn Nets in a battle with the Philadelphia 76ers for who can be the 5th worst team in the NBA. Exciting times for the Nets. Get me to May 12th. Knicks, of course, in the battle to see where they land before coming into the playoffs. But Alex, we've got a fun guest today. I'm sure Knick fan, Net fans, you have seen Doug Berns, Doug B, all over the internet, Instagram, Twitter, his post-game videos after Knicks games, wins or losses. He's been doing these amazing parody songs about the Knicks. They are just incredible. So, Alex, good to see you. And Doug, excited to learn a lot more about your musical genius, because Alex and I have been huge fans of yours for a while.
Thank you guys for having me on. I love this show. I love to hear you guys go at it. It's very funny. So I'm glad to be in the middle of this chaos that is Bad Weather Fans. I appreciate you guys.
Well, let's you throw out something that would trigger both of us, and we can just start fighting.
We just argue all of them.
We'll just throwing steak into the lion's den. Yeah.
That's what Dolan J. Trump does when he comes on the show. He does
terrific.
it he just like drops, like, he knows us very well. We're really good friends with him now, and he just like drops nuggets to get us going. Like, Spencer Dinwiddie, what are you kidding? Kind of.
Yeah.
So that's how he does it.
But Doug, yeah, tell us, so people, after each game, you put together these amazing videos. The not only musically, but the visuals as well are just awesome.
Thank you.
They're so much fun to watch. Like, for example, Knicks will play a game. You have a song. You change the lyrics to fit the narrative that happened in that game. How did this all begin? How did you think of this idea from the start?
Well, thank you, first of all, for...
It was all my idea, actually.
Yeah.
I came up with everything for him, by the way.
Sure you did.
I called Alex and I said, how am I going to get this to work? I have 2 kids now. How am I going to figure this out? No, so basically, Alex knows I've been interacting with him on Knicks Twitter for a number of years, since the Knicks were really bad. And I have always enjoyed that space. I'm an obsessive Knicks fan from the time I'm 5 years old. And I'm a professional musician. I've been touring, playing gigs, doing all recording on multiple stages, multiple styles. I play bass as my primary instrument. But I've gotten more into my own production and recording, obviously, in the last few years, really since COVID. But so basically, over the years, I've done a little piece of content here about the Knicks, a little song there about the NBA, and people seem to like it, and that was fun for me. And then coming into this season, I had a conversation with a friend of mine who's a very successful producer and songwriter, and he said, it's great that you're grinding and playing so many gigs and getting out there and doing your thing, but like, you should think about finding something that's really you, like a way to express yourself that's not just Doug the sideman, the bass player, but something that brings your personality together and all your talents together. So I was pretty excited about the Knicks roster coming into the season. I thought they made some, I'm sure we're going to talk about the Mikal Bridges trade at some point today, but I was pretty excited about it. And I said to myself, what if to really push my talents, my songwriting abilities, my production abilities, what if I just tried this thing where I wrote a song about every game? And just saw where it went. And the idea was a metal song, because that's like the easiest style for me to produce when I started this was metal. So I was like, let's try it. Let's see what happens. And then I just got hooked into it, and people started responding to it. And when I really switched the flow up to doing these parodies of famous songs rather than trying to come up with something from scratch every night, it was easier for me because I had reference material to start with, and then people would really identify and get a kick of how I twisted the original song that I was cooking off of. So that's kind of how the process began for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you have the hit songs where the flow already, the melody, and it's easy to just drop in the lyrics. That makes sense. And not only on Twitter, you've been blowing up like Quentin Grimes on the Sixers on Instagram as well. So How has that been going? Because I know you've been touching a lot of famous people from there.
That's been terrific. I mean, yeah, Instagram, I think, is the platform where this makes the most sense because you basically watch a mini movie every time you watch somebody's Instagram post. And that's what I'm trying to make. Like, as Mike was alluding to, I do this sort of two Dougs, three Dougs thing with a lot of my videos. And that excites people. It makes them laugh. And I think NBA fans at large just kind of love ancillary content to NBA highlights and NBA analysis. Like, for instance, even my daughter loves that. I think it's Bleacher Report that made those anime style cartoons.
Yeah,
Uh,
last
uh,
year or 2 years ago, whatever it was, RJ Barrett was running and Julius like running through
exactly.
the forest or something.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
doing things my way.
yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah.
but my point with that is people love supplementary creative
Sure.
stuff that spins off of the storylines of the NBA because the NBA is also like the most soap opera-y of
Oh
any
yeah.
league. So it's really fun and it's just incredible that Knicks fans are so activated and then NBA fans at large are so activated and a lot of celebrities in New York love the Knicks. Like obviously Spike Lee has interacted with me a lot and he's one of my like heroes, period, straight up, end of story, outside of the Knicks. And that's been thrilling for me. So many cool actors. Kirk Acevedo, also amazing actor, tapped in early on this stuff. So all of this has been really exciting for me because I know how many people and I've even interacted with some of the Knick greats like Allen Houston enjoys the videos now. It's so cool. And even Mitchell Robinson shared a video. They put one of them on the roommates show and Josh and Jalen watched the video and had a laugh about it. So what this is really all about for me is bringing in fans, bringing in the team, bringing in the culture around the Knicks that we can just kind of all just settle in and have some fun with this extremely crazy ride that the Knicks are on this season.
When we prepare for interviews, like I always like to jot down questions, and sometimes it's harder to like think of things to ask. I have so many fucking questions I want to ask you. It's ridiculous. One, just from like a processing standpoint, when you put these together, do you have a song in mind before the game? Does the game dictate which song you want to pick? I do production all the time for podcasting. So in my head, I'm thinking of like, you have to have a process at this point to make this work because of the turnaround times and the amount of content that you're pumping out. It's like, what is your exact process in making this work?
Well, basically what I try to do is I try to record an instrumental before the game. So from a production standpoint, the real fun challenge of making specifically parodies of existing songs is that I get to go into my software and get my instruments and really fine tune sounds to sound really close to the record. That's the fun challenge of that part. Is like I pick a song that I think is going to be likely relevant to the result of the game, which is the most challenging part, coming up with that connection.
Mm-hmm.
And then I make the song that afternoon or ideally the night before at some point so I don't get stuck with a game and something to, and I don't have to start from scratch at 10:30, 11 p.m. after the game is over. So I'll have that in the can. And if the game goes in a direction that fits with that instrumental, I'll just watch, take notes of what are the storylines, what's the history between these two teams, what matchups are interesting, who's playing well, who's not playing well, what's happening with the rotations, just everything that I'm sure you guys always think about when you're analyzing games to talk about on the show. That's the stuff I'm watching for. And then after the game is over, I get the pen out and I start writing. And I try to come up with the hook first, like that calls to mind the original song and like kind of twists it in a funny way. And then my verses are generally more like, let's delve into the statistics. Let's delve into maybe a specific play that was interesting or funny. Was it a dunk? Was it a steal? Was it like a crazy turnover? Whatever it was. Was it a game-winning shot? And then I record the vocals. And hopefully I don't have a busy morning the next morning. This is the ideal situation. And I will go to sleep and wake up, and then I'll record the video and then I'll mix and master the audio. I'll put the video together. I'll put the captions on the video so that you guys can really see what's happening with the lyrics. and then I'll release the video. So it's a pretty intense turnaround. And there have been times where I will make an instrumental that doesn't fit at all with what happens. So I'll either have to start from scratch or I'll have to dig something else out from another game that didn't work. So when I have a little more free time, I try to front load the instrumentals so I have stuff to choose from.
Right.
But in a lot of cases, it's like it works, and I can find a way to make it work, and that's cool. Losses are tough to write about, but sometimes they end up being the most cathartic ones for fans because we're all frustrated. We all think things could have gone differently, and then I sort of try to articulate that, and I think that resonates with people a lot.
Right.
And then wins are just, let's have a party. Let's enjoy what we did right.
Yeah. So that's insane. Like the fact that, you're able to like structure your music in a certain way before the show. Do you think the Knicks should have traded 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges? Let's
do it right now.
Go right
I'm sitting
there.
with a Knicks fan and a Nets fan. How can we not?
Right.
Here's the thing. And I've grappled with this all season, and I've grappled with it since the moment.
The tone is getting lower.
Yeah, exactly. The excitement is
Come pull up a chair. Yes.
So I have been a big Mikal Bridges should have been a Knick since he got drafted person for multiple seasons. I think he's an amazingly talented player. I think he is a Swiss Army knife player. And I think that he can score at every level. He can defend, especially off the ball, super well. He can move really quickly. And I just think he's an in the flow kind of a player. So as an individual player, I like him a lot. And I was happy on the surface of we have now Mikal Bridges coming into the season when the trade was done. The issue comes in now with like what the investment was for this team. And I think Mike is probably pretty happy with this trade because of the position the Nets are in, having lost KD and Kyrie and Harden and having to start over. The Knicks basically gave the Nets a blueprint to refresh the entire scenario. They can trade for a star. They can draft multiple players. They can go in any direction. But going back to the Knicks, from the standpoint of I wanted Leon Rose to be aggressive, and I wanted him to push this core and push this team to its maximum ceiling. I liked that he did it. What happens now is if the Knicks flame out in the playoffs and Mikal's been up and down, I think he's been better than people give him credit for.
Right.
But the ups and downs with the cost of the picks, it puts the Knicks in a tough position if they want to pivot the roster. So I think ultimately what's going to happen with this question and the greater question of who the Knicks are and where they're going is it all depends on what happens in the playoffs. And Mikal is here. Like we all have to embrace Mikal being a Knick and finding a way to maximize his skills. And to me, that means bringing him off of screens, getting him in motion. That's the way he likes to score. I don't like when he shoots the ball from a standstill. I like when he comes above the break in motion or when he comes off of a curl open closer to the basket, maybe in the paint, because he has such an ability to extend above a contest. So take advantage of that. And I think that's been the biggest challenge with integrating him into the Knicks and expecting him also to be this sort of style of one-on-one defender that's not what he's been in his career. So I think moving forward, he's here. Figure it out. Get the most out of him because he's an excellent player. Sticker shock aside, which there very much is sticker shock involved with that trade. Those are my thoughts on the trade.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, you have the Knicks perspective and the net perspective. And from the Nets perspective, take the Knicks out of it. If you were trading Mikal Bridges for 5 unprotected first-round picks and a pick swap, it's a great trade. And it from where they were in their season, that's an unprecedented amount of draft pick and draft capital that's going in return for a player that's never been an all-star. That's a fact. For the Nets, I always have argument with Knicks fans about, well, these are going to be picks in the late 20s forever, so who cares? Well, one, you don't, from a Knicks side, you don't really know that. Like, you're looking right now at the Knicks in real time. in 2029 and 2031, there's no guarantees that those Knicks picks are there. They're barely in the 20s right now as they're kind of dealing with injuries. How does Jalen Brunson age in 5-6 years? There's no guarantees that 2029, 2031 picks will have the same value that you're looking at it right now. I think in real time, you're already starting to understand, hey, maybe that won't be the same. And from a net perspective, there's no guarantee that the Nets use these draft picks. Maybe they, as you alluded to, Doug, they trade them. Maybe in this year's draft, they take the Bucks pick, which is now in the mid-teens, and they take an unprotected Knicks pick in 2031, and they trade it for the sixth pick in the NBA draft. So all of a sudden, you've got two young stars now here. And you would say, yeah, you would do that for Mikal Bridges. From a Nets end, it's a no-brainer. It was worth it. Now, as a Knicks hater, I'm going to want him to struggle. And that's nothing personal. That's just the shots he took at the Nets when he was on the Roommates podcast rubbed me the wrong way. So I want to see the Knicks fail. I do think because the Knicks haven't shown yet, and there's still time, that they are in the upper echelon of the NBA teams. It's like, well, if you're not going to be a top team and you traded all that draft capital for Mikal Bridges, we're kind of stuck. And I think that's the part where Knicks fans are like, yeah, he's been good. And I think you're right. He's been better than a lot of fans want to give credit. But if we're going to be a second-tier team in the East, what was the point?
Right. And I think that Knicks fans have sometimes an issue with being sort of tribalists and like not wanting to see the Nets perspective. Like everything you're saying is extremely valid, Mike, about where the Nets can go with this trade. And that's an example of Sean Marks just being like, this is the moment to do this. Even if it is with my crosstown rival, I got to take this deal. Right. So I think realistically, it could end up being a really tough trade to look back on for the Knicks and a really pivotal moment that allows the Nets to go, wherever they want to go from here. I will say that as far as the like extremely risky all-in trades that the Knicks have made in the last 25 years, Mikal Bridges is to me the best individual player that they've done that for. So I think the risk, I get it. But yeah, ultimately it depends what happens in the next season and a half for him to see if this trade can be vindicated, because there were a million ways the Knicks could have done a more cost-effective move, but I think there was a fixation on him as a player and his connection with Jalen, and it made them feel compelled to try to make a deal. So it's just interesting, and that's like the fun part. Like, we can't sit here and be like, yo, Nets fans are stupid, they don't understand how great the Knicks are gonna be. Like, we want our teams to do well, but we got to be realistic about the situations that each of our teams have been put in by this deal.
Right. And the reason why they had to trade all those picks was because of a cap situation where the cap is changing and the CBA is nuts. And Leon Rose, one of his big mistakes was hoarding all these picks for too long. Like, he should have dealt them earlier or traded for them for a pick sooner. And now he's stuck in this situation where he's got all these picks. He's got to get rid of them. The Nets knew that, and they had him over a barrel. And they're like, well, you really want this guy, and you got to get rid of these picks. How about you do both? And, they probably threw out a number and they were like, whoa, they said yes. You know what I mean? And I loved the deal and I thought it was great. When I got concerned was when they traded DiVincenzo and Randall for Towns. As much as I don't like Randall, I just thought that all you were doing was dropping Mikal Bridges into a well-oiled machine and a guy that was going to pick up with the team and be fine, because he knew three of the biggest players on the team and has played with them at like so much and knows them so well that he'll fit seamlessly into that squad. But dropping Towns into there, it was kind of scary. And I don't know if that, obviously Towns is better than Randall and better than I even knew, but losing DiVincenzo was a big issue. And I know they tried to trade Mitchell Robinson, but like, why would the Timberwolves want him? They have Rudy Gobert, so it's just, they're like, no, so it was kind of frustrating from that perspective. And I know the Knicks are better than they were last year, but now, like, it's almost like you punted on a year in a way, and fans are okay with that, which is frustrating, because living through the Melo era, you punted on 2 years to get Melo, and then you had one shining moment where you can't make a mistake to get to the next level, and then you make the mistake with the Billups and the wasting the amnesty and not using it for Amari to get Chris Paul, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So now we're in that space where, like, the next move is either going to take the Knicks to the promised land or it's going to screw up and the Nets are going to get all these great picks. So I don't think that that's going to happen, because Leon Rose has shown so many times that he can, do things when you don't realize, or he'll just push through, like drove by the fork of the road and went straight kind of a thing, So I'm excited to see what happens, but like, what do you think your the ceiling for the Knicks this year is? You know, given everybody stays healthy and Brunson comes back and you know everything is good, everybody's healthy, all the teams are healthy. Do you think that they can make a run?
I think they can make a run. I think it's going to take some snapping into place of stuff that there's not a lot of time to figure out how to snap it into place.
Right.
Because I love Towns, and I think the Towns trade was phenomenal. I think that DiVincenzo is a really high quality catch and shooter and can do some other stuff. But to me, the idea of, first of all, resolving the Randall contract question by trading him,
Mhm.
you get back an all NBA level player in Towns, and you have to pay to play. And I think DiVincenzo was the pay to play element of that trade, and I'm okay with that. I'm still okay with that. No matter what happens with DiVincenzo in the playoffs, no matter how good his second half has been, I'm still good with it. And no matter how great that shot was against Philadelphia, I'm in the playoffs last season, I'm still good with it. Um, the the issue for me now is you need a creative mind to deal with the fact that I call it the catch 22, pun intended, right? Because Towns is not an elite rim protector by any stretch of the imagination. He's in fact not good at it at all. I think he's better in space out away from the basket than he gets credit for, but he's still just not a good defender straight up and down in the fouls and all the problems with
Nobody's
his
afraid of him.
defense.
He doesn't change
Nobody's
defenses. Yeah. Yeah.
unlike Mitch, who people,
Mhm.
when Mitch is really locked in, people will not drive into the paint when
Right.
he's back behind, by the basket. And then on the other end, what makes him so special is that he can pull another team's five away from the basket with his shooting, which has been phenomenal. He had a dip after the thumb injury, and now he's shooting the ball extremely well once
Right.
again, with a lot of confidence, well beyond the line. So you need a creative mind in order for this team to reach its ceiling. You need someone who can think creatively how to deal with the limitations of Cat, how to deal with the defensive limitations of Brunson, and how are you deploying Mitchell Robinson? Most importantly, how are you deploying Mitchell Robinson to deal with the defensive weaknesses of your two best offensive players? So I can't tell you what the ceiling is. I don't want to sound like I'm copping out,
Mhm.
but for me, that's what it's going to come down to, and that's what's going to determine how well the playoff run goes, is how you use Mitchell Robinson to hedge against some of the weaker defensive players in this lineup. That's my take on it. And I think if it goes well, they could get to the conference finals. And Boston is a buzzsaw. They're unstoppable. I, okay, so after the Knicks lost to the Clippers the other night, I switched over to the Celtics and the Suns. I've never. The game was over in 2 minutes. It was wild. So anyway, I don't see a championship for us if I'm being honest. But then again, I do think that this is a potentially championship contending roster. Maybe tweak the depth in the offseason, but I do think that with some creative thinking, this team can go pretty far.
So that's why I'm rooting for the Knicks to stay in that 3 seed, because I want them second round. I think, like to you, I've watched enough Boston where their depth, their shooting,
It's just not
they're going to
fair.
win 61, 62 games again this year. And it's like, oh, they had a down year. It's like they are incredible, and their depth is just wild how good they are. So that's why I'm like, keep the Knicks in the 3-6. Two questions for you musically. I want to know, one,
Sure.
who's jumped in your DMs about this that you were like shocked to see? You were like, I can't believe this person just got in my DMs about what I'm doing.
Well, Adam Deitch, the drummer from Lettuce, is one of my favorite drummers. It's like super funky, cool player. And another kind of jazz, like drum and bass drummer named Zach Danziger, both have messaged me about how much they like the stuff, and maybe someday we'll do something together. So from my musical nerd growing up in New York City perspective, hearing from those two was just crazy. Like,
Yeah.
those guys, like, Deitch has provided music for MSG Network for several years now. Like Lettuce provides a lot of the cutaway music, the highlight music. It's all Lettuce. So to hear from him especially was really cool. Yeah, I think obviously, Spike is Spike. Spike is the be all end all to me. But to hear from Deitch was just really, really dope.
If you were to do a song with Thibs, like let's say Thibs said, I would come to your home and I would record with you. Is there a song? I'm putting you on the spot here because it might be tough to come up with in a second. But is there a song you'd want to do with like Thibs together?
Be like the Shrek soundtrack with a Smash Mouth,
I think I just got it. I think there's a song by a band called Trapped from the early 2000s.
Headstrong?
Called Headstrong. Alex knows where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
And I think
I
think that is Tom Thibodeau's anthem. Headstrong to take you on. Like he is a very headstrong dude. And look, I've given up on. I used to be the number one anti-Tibser. Maybe not the number one, but among the top 20 anti-Tibsers in the Knicks internet space.
Same was I. So was I. Yeah. But he keeps winning. I got to stop it.
He's obviously a good coach, and he's not gonna change his stripes. And I think at this point, he frustrates the hell out of me on a night-to-night basis. Like tonight, he's gonna piss me off. I know it, and it's just part of the experience with him. And I think he's going to be under the microscope in the playoffs, so he's going to have to really be creative. He's going to really have to figure some stuff out. But as far as wanting to ship him out of town tonight, I'm over it. I want my New York Knicks to win an NBA championship, and I don't really care how they do it.
Good. Yeah. Final question. So everybody thinks Thibs hates Tyler Kolek because he doesn't play him and play Delon Wright. And it's just, why does he hate him? And we do this every year. He hated Cam Reddish. He hated Obi Toppin. He hated all these players that ended up not being that good.
Yeah.
And we took a lot of L's for that. But creatively speaking, why does, and wrong answers only, why does Thibs hate Tyler Kolek?
Thibs hates Tyler Kolek because of his hair, I think. Because he's got the little emo flip, and Thibs doesn't have time for that kind of stuff. I think
hair jealous. So he's a hair jealous.
Exactly. Thibs used to have like a cool full mullet back in the 80s.
Right.
Now it's what it is now. So I think that's where a lot of this comes from.
Okay. Thanks.
Doug, no, I could say we could talk with you all day. It's awesome to hear all this stuff. What does final one for me? What does your wife think of the amount of energy and time that you have put into this, and what's it been like in the house, just kind of becoming a Knicks celebrity? Honestly, like a Knicks celebrity. I would classify that like I'll say this. It's like I've loved seeing all the notice you're getting, all the attention, because when I was like, I was texting people like, this dude is a fucking talent. Like, this is awesome.
Thank you.
So what's it been like in your house with your wife and your kids, just kind of churning all this out?
It's funny. When I met Mary, one of the first conversations we had when we were getting serious, I was like, the two things that will never change about me is that I am a musician. That's what I do for a living. That's what I do with my heart and my soul. And I watch every Knicks game. Period. End of story. It's non-negotiable. If you want to be together, that's part of the deal. That's what it is. Like, you're making a vow to marry a Knicks fan and stay with a Knicks fan who watches every game, doesn't take a game off. And she's been incredibly understanding. It's tough at times. Like, back-to-backs are really tough because she'll be like, they're playing again? And I feel the same way. I'm like, oh, they're playing again? I have to come up with another song?
So does Josh Hart when he's tired.
Exactly. I don't blame him. We still have 3 more back-to-backs. There's like 10 days left in the season.
Yeah.
Crazy. But anyway, she's been phenomenally supportive. She's been in 2 of the videos. She shot one of the videos that, just from a logistical standpoint, I needed help with. And I think she's kind of was a skeptic about the idea of short form content to begin with. And then, things just started to happen where she realized, okay, I've always wanted my husband to find this thing that really shows the world how talented and how creative he can be. and she's really embraced that this is the thing, and she understands that my obsession with the Knicks and my knowledge of music came together in a really beautiful way for this thing. And she's been, I think she's been pushing herself to accept that I am very invested in this and that we as a family have to be invested in this because it's going in really a cool direction. And we have 2 young children. So there's not a lot of sleep happening at the moment, but we're making it work. And she's a musician herself. She's a music teacher. She's an accordionist. And she's just been terrific. So at every chance I get to give her credit for how much she's supported me, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Well, mark this moment in history where a husband
go ahead,
was
Alex,
right.
I'm sorry.
I said, mark this moment in history where a husband was right over the wife. The wife didn't think it was going to work, and the husband said it will, and it was right. So we'll mark this moment down in history. None of us can ever say that. So thank you.
Doug,
You have to be judicious when you claim your victories.
You can't
over your
touchdown
spouse.
dance on a woman that when you get her, you prove her wrong.
Exactly right.
Doug, it's been really enjoyed chatting it up. Plug as well IG where people can find you. And we'll put the link. We'll put your IG in our links too for people.
Awesome. It's at Doug Lust, DUGLUST. There's a new recap for every game, plus other really cool content that I'm working on that's really exciting, Knicks related, other music related. So just tap in and we'll have a great time.
Appreciate it, Doug.
Right.
Looking forward to watching the next videos, man. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Doug. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.